program. And as we mentioned earlier, we're going to be having Mel Stevens in our studio, and Mel is our only guest in the studio. And welcome, Mel.
Hi, Lynette. Again?
Yes, well, it's nice to have you in here.
It is.
And this week has been it's been a road safety week, and we are going to be talking with Matt Collins from Council a little bit later on. But as you're vision impaired, Mel, how difficult or not so difficult is it for you getting around? Because now that you're on your white cane and Darcy is retired.
Yeah, it's easy from a general point of view, but I think road safety and traffic is something that is always challenging for a blind person. I don't find it too challenging because I'm used to it, but it's certainly something that drivers have to be aware of as well.
Yes, and we're talking about that with Matt because driver and also sighted pedestrians, they all have to look out for each other.
That's right.
And because you're vision impaired, of course, it does make a lot of difference. But of course, with being vision impaired, I would think that you know Mildura quite well, so therefore you'd be reasonably confident walking around our streets and sticking to the CBD.
Yeah, it's certainly, and Mildura is really, or some points of view, it's really good because in the CBD we've got tactile ground surface indicators to show where the pram ramp is when you're about to step onto the road, and they've also got them in the middle of the road, so that's a good thing. But it's also difficult in the CBD because of all the roundabouts, because with roundabouts all the cars are always slowing down to go around the roundabout, so it can be a bit difficult to tell as a blind person, not being able to see indicators, whether a car is going straight through the roundabout or whether it's going to turn the corner and come across in front of you. So that can be a bit of a danger.
Mel, have you been into any unfamiliar situations since Darcy retired?
No, I've been pretty lucky, touch wood. Nothing's gone wrong, and if it does go wrong, then I think that reflects more on my skills than on road safety and on the drivers. But they do have to be aware, especially as a long cane user. I might not necessarily cross the road straight. I do tend to sort of drift off to the side and miss crossing the road perfectly straight, and I think that's one thing that drivers have to just be careful of when they do see someone with a white cane walking around, is just to make sure that they are on the crossing. And the other thing is that for me, the biggest danger is cars coming in and out of driveways.
Yes, I think that's been proved over the years many times, not only with vision impaired people, but with children running behind cars backing out. It's just an absolute tragedy.
Yeah.
You were talking about going straight across a pedestrian crossing, Mel. Just walking down a footpath. As a sighted person, I mean, I know I'm either walking straight or crooked or whatever it might be, but how can you tell if you're walking straight?
Well,
except for banging into something.
Yeah, that's usually a pretty good indicator that you're not. No, usually if my cane goes off into the nature strip or falls down the gutter or, starts bashing against the wall or whatever, it's like, oh, I'm not walking straight again. And then you try and correct it, and then you overcorrect and you're bouncing off the wall on the other side of the footpath. And it can give the impression that you're blind drunk instead of blind vision impaired.
Well, you could use that as an excuse anyway.
Look, I've tried at 10 o'clock in the morning when it's not really appropriate to be. No,
for some people, yes.
No, it's something that you have to be mindful of, especially when you are crossing. And even though the TGSIs or tactile ground surface indicators are designed to line you up so that you do cross, quote, straight, unquote, it doesn't matter. You still can drift off, especially I find the wider the road, the further I drift, because it's, the further along I have to walk without anything telling me where I am.
So when you're using your cane, what sort of width sweep do you have, in front of you?
So in front of me, well, this is a 50-inch cane, so I'm going to say it's about 1 metre in front that it feels. I'm not sure exactly. And then the sweep side to side is shoulder width.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so, and because the footpaths are probably, 1.5 metres wide, 1 metre wide, so it'd be fairly easy, I guess, to go crooked.
Yeah, and I've actually found that the blinder I've got, the crookeder I walk, because I can't see where the footpath is anymore. So it's like, I'm doing it again.
Do you have any sight at all?
No.
No, not at all.
I couldn't even tell you whether the lights are on in this room, which at this time of the day I would assume they are, but...
They are.
Oh, that's nice.
Yes, no, they are. But also, I guess another thing is with drivers, because, some drivers are selfish and you're not watching they're watching where they're going, but they're not looking, if you know what I mean. They're just focused on something and don't have any peripheral vision. And they might not see you, and you're coming onto the pedestrian crossing, and being a driver and watching a lot of our local people just walk straight onto the pedestrian crossing without even looking to see that the cars are stopping.
That actually freaks me out when I'm at a pedestrian crossing and I hear just people walk straight past me like they're not even looking where I'm going. I'm like, you're walking onto a road there, buddy. And then for me, though, probably the biggest, apart from cars pulling out of driveways, for me the biggest danger when it comes to crossing roads is probably actually well-meaning sighted people grabbing me by the elbow and deciding that it would be appropriate to pull me across the road.
And they think they're doing the right thing for you.
Yeah, they think they're helping.
So what would you like them to do if they're being helpful for you?
If they really genuinely want to help, I say, for a start, please don't stop me in the middle of the road and say, do you need help, dear? Because that's really inappropriate, and I'm actually likely to ignore you if you start talking to me while I'm halfway through a road crossing because I'm concentrating on what I'm doing. So if you want to offer an assistance to a blind person crossing a road, please do it before the blind person actually steps out into the road, and just go up to them, say, excuse me, do you need assistance crossing this road? And if the person says no thank you, I'm fine, please leave them alone, because there's nothing more irritating and distracting than having a well-meaning sighted person, even after you've said no, I'm okay, thanks, I can manage, I know where I'm going. There's nothing more annoying than all the way across the road, oh, just a little bit to your left, dear, oh, just a little bit to your right, dear, oh, you need to walk straighter, dear. And it's like, yeah, I'm aware that I'm not walking straight, and you need to stop kind of nudging me in the correct direction, because that's actually more distracting because as soon as I get onto the other side of the road, it doesn't matter to me how crooked I've gone. As soon as I get to the other side of the road, I'm going to step up the curb and get off the road, and then figure out which direction I have to go to find the up ramp and go back onto the footpath.
Okay, so we're listening to what you're saying. So, but Mel, I see you as a very independent vision impaired person, and therefore you're very strong, and you can. If somebody says that to you, you'd rather not be distracted. But there might be someone that hasn't got your confidence.
Absolutely, but in general, it doesn't matter how confident any blind person is. I would say that most of the time they would appreciate that they are asked whether they need help before they step out onto the road, because crossing a road, especially if you're completely blind, requires a lot of concentration, because you're not only concentrating on where you're walking and the feedback that your cane's giving you, but you're also concentrating on traffic, which could be like 4 or 5 directions the traffic's all coming from.
And particularly, as you say, with these roundabouts,
exactly.
And they can be a terrible distraction.
So you're listening to see, is there a car coming from your right? You're listening to make sure that there's no cars turning into the road in front of you. and then, you know, what's coming up behind you. So you're listening to the cars from all four directions.
It's like the surround sound that you're listening to.
Exactly.
And you were
so
talking
I would say to sighted people who are going to offer assistance in the middle of the road, only offer it if the blind person's like in the middle of the roundabout at Walnut Street, and they're like, you know, flying around with their cane going, and they look really stuck and really lost.
Okay. And you're talking about the feeling with your cane, Mel. So it unfolds, obviously, to the desired length that you have it.
It does, and it makes this really cool sound. Hang on. I did do this for an ad once.
Okay.
So there we go. We now have a 50-inch long white cane.
Okay. So when you say the feeling, has it got any vibrations?
It's got a... No. So it's got a... as I fold it up again so that I don't have this 50-inch weapon flying around the place.
That's an excellent idea.
It's got a, like a golf ball size tip on the end, and this is what goes along the ground when you're using the cane, and you drag the cane from side to side along the ground, or you can tap it side to side along the ground, and the what is underneath the ball of the cane comes up through the cane. There's an elastic string, and it's just, I don't know what they're made of these days, but it's some kind of metal. It's quite light, and you can actually feel the vibration of what the ball's rolling on. You can tell whether you're on asphalt, concrete, bricks. You can feel the tactiles, and you can tell the difference between the line tactiles and the dotty tactiles.
So they've all got a different feeling to you.
So the tactiles have actually got there's actually two different types. There's the ones that have the lines in them, which are called directional tactiles, which lead you to a crossing point or to a traffic light pole or to a bus stop. And then there's ones that have just like dots on them, and they are what's called danger indicators, and they actually indicate the edge of the road or the edge of the platform or the edge of the railway platform or the top of stairs and stuff, and that's when you have to stop and think and make your traffic decision.
It's amazing. I mean, I know about the dots and things like that, but have you sort of thought about all these things before?
I have never heard of these tactile indicators.
Well, they're everywhere in Mildura.
Well, that's wonderful. I'm really impressed.
Oh, so am I. And when you were talking about that, they have a directional one to go to the bus stop, for example. That's fantastic. And I guess taxi ranks and things like that. But because we've got the
in
dots.
the city a lot more, but we're getting better up here.
Well, that's fantastic. Now, Mel, I'm so pleased that you were able to get in here today because it's very cold. And
I cheated today.
How did you cheat?
I came down with a friend. I had coffee, and I came down with a friend beforehand. So.
Oh, that's great. Well, we're the beneficiaries of it, so that's right. Absolutely fantastic. So, Mel, we'll look forward to having you in the studio again because you're very informative, and I know that our listeners. Yeah, we just need to be made aware of what it's like I mean, here in Vision Australia, there's all sorts of things that we can give you, aids, etc., but we're not really talking to the people that are using the aids and what is available to them in the community. So what you're doing is not only making it more informative for people out there, but it's helping us in the studio also. So what we're going to do is say adieu, and we will be speaking with you again, Mel.
Or as Darcy would say, au revoir.
I have to tell you, Mel, you know, when you were in the studio last time and you were giving instruction to Darcy in French, I've told people about that. They were so impressed.
Yes, he is very good at French.
Well, we just thought that was wonderful. And the fact that you were telling people that the dog had a different name so that well, I mean, that's great,
isn't it?
It's
a good trick.
It was a great trick.
It was a good trick.
No, and it worked for you. So,
it did.
So all these tips that you're going to be passing on to our listeners in the future is fantastic. Yeah. So we might just take another short station break, and we'll say fare thee well, and look forward to seeing you again, Mel. And we'll just take a short break, and we'll come in with Matt Collins from the council. Thanks, Lockie.